I believe that your business should support your life, not consume it. And I will always say that. I also think that business should be fun. Or why did we do this? You could be at that job you didn't like with a lot less hassle and evenings and weekends and no overhead. So your business should support your life, not consume it. And you should be having fun while you're doing that.
Step into the world of success with your brand amplified, the ultimate podcast designed to unravel the intricacies of thriving businesses. I'm your host, Annika Jackson, and I'm on a mission to uncover the stories, strategies, and secrets that have propelled entrepreneurs and business leaders to success. I often say that the conversations I have with my guests are exactly what I need to hear and likely what my listeners need to hear at the same time. So this is a very appropriate conversation. Kris Ward, I was just sharing with you that my last call was talking with somebody about our different businesses and busyness and how I really needed to have more VAs in my life to help manage certain processes. So you have Win the Hour, Win the Day.
Yeah.
I'm really, really excited to hear about all of your ventures. You have a book, you podcast, you speak, and you know everything about the world of virtual assistants and admins. So thank you for being here.
Oh, I'm excited to talk about this.
Same here. How did you get into this sector of the business market?
Okay, so when I started my business like 14 plus years ago, my focus was market messaging. And like so many entrepreneurs, the first couple of years, I worked insane hours. Like it was nuts. And my husband said I was always stealing from sleep, getting up earlier and earlier and staying later and later. And about the 2-year mark, I was told I was starting to lose some of my charm. And oh my gosh. So here's this man cheering me on in everything I do, my biggest fan, and I'm just friggin' tired all the time, right? So I thought this cannot be. So I literally went from, working 16 hours down to 6. Now that did not happen overnight. That's a whole story in its own. But luckily I did, because it was just a couple years after that my husband was diagnosed with colon cancer. I was pulled away from the business for about 2 years. When I returned after his passing, my existing clients had no idea of my absence. It was just not how he navigated his journey. We were very positive in nature. The local business community didn't know. And so people started to come to me and they started to ask me, like, how could you have possibly been away and we not know? And if you could do that, maybe you could help us get to our kids' soccer games or see your friends and family again. And so I started working with them under that capacity. And I started to realize really quickly that the people who needed me most looked good on paper. They might be in business 5-10 years. Maybe they have a book and a podcast. They're doing all these great things, but they're still working way too many hours for this point in their journey. And so I started working with what I call their team, their time, and their toolkits. Most of my clients say they get 20 hours back a week within the first month of working with us. And we find hiring on board virtual assistants, and we put them into our leadership program, which is a bonus. It's the first thing we do, and we do it for free. And I'll tell you why that matters so much compared to agencies, but I'll let you get into that because that's a whole conversation in its own.
Yeah, well, first of all, I'm sorry about your husband's passing. I'm sorry for that. I'm also happy that you were able to still have a successful business running and still have a livelihood.
Yeah, because, you take the emotion out of that story.
Yeah.
And, the reality is, if I returned to a failed business, that was not the time for me to be looking for a job, try to be charming in an interview, and learn a new position. So that's the reality of it. And that's why I'm so passionate that your business should support your life, not consume it. And that life is interruptions. So lucky for me, he got my full attention and we did things. And I'm not sitting here agonizing and regret that I was torn between two worlds. I didn't know I was going to be taking that time off. One day led into another and such it happened, right? But knowing that, okay, this is being managed. He has my full attention today, right? And it would be a very difficult life for me if I was living that in regret.
Yeah, 100%. So what was your secret sauce? What did you discover that led you to be able to run your business?
Well, my secret sauce wasn't that. Listen, it was a journey and it was a process. And like I said, that going from 16 hours down to 6 is a whole story on its own. So it definitely didn't happen overnight. But I will tell you the outcome to a number of things. I did learn really quickly that when you listen to all these gurus and they talk about this and that happening and sleeping on the floor of their apartment. They give you the really painful, sweaty, really glorified part of their journey. And where the transition happened for any and all of them, that bridge they crossed when they started building a team. And to me, a team is a philosophy, not a number. So you can have a team of one, right? And when they started making those streamlined processes and those transitions, that's when they evolved into the success that we admire today. But they don't talk about that. They talk about, oh, you got to grind it out and the badge of honor associated with that. So it's okay that, you're still saying to yourself, well, once I get past this next thing, things will be different. And that's not the case. So what I would say to you is, first off, really, you cannot have any sort of business without having some element of support and a team. And a team, again, can be one person. In that team philosophy, you do have to have a setup so that you can constantly find time. So no matter what you're doing, like when I wrote my book, as you mentioned, Win the Hour, Win the Day, I thought when I was done, well, there should be a parade in my honor because I have finished this damn book. Well, that's great. But now I need time on the calendar, not just for me, and for my VA to find these shows that I need to be on to talk about the book. Okay, that takes time. So we have to be able to compress and have more time on the calendar, not go faster, work later, the whole formula of work longer hours and faster. That's the only existing formula most of us have. But then you get on these shows. Well, the be on the show takes time. Okay, I got 4 shows booked this afternoon. That's 4 hours. So you have to have something that allows you to constantly scale. And that's where our signature super toolkits come in. That's where understanding 90% of people don't know how to use a calendar, those type of things. But it does all start with the virtual assistant 100%.
And did you start out by using other agencies, finding them on your own, getting inbound requests from, on LinkedIn?
No. I sound like I started in the 1800s, but when I started my virtual assistant, when I got my first VA, there were none of those things. And Odesk was just invented. I was using that. And that was a big deal. Previous to that, the first person I found, I swear to God, it was like talking to somebody on Mars. You could hear chickens in the background, and I was still on Skype. It was a whole big deal, right? So I really came through without any of the resources that are available today. These agencies have just popped up in the last number of years. And I didn't even understand because I've never used an agency. So I'm hearing from the virtual assistants that go through our leadership program, like how different we are. And I will be honest, I don't think we're that great. I think they're just that bad. Like I think the agencies. So what I mean by that is I find out from the VA. So we have this leadership program. So let me tell you about the agencies first.
Yeah.
One of my gifts is trying to tell you 4 stories at the same time. So pay attention. Sometimes you need a roadmap and a guide, but that's okay. The agencies, first thing they do is they get the VAs to sign an NDA, non-disclosure agreement. So now you might be thinking you're paying the VA $5, $8, $10 an hour, and you're paying them too. The industry standard is between $4 and $5 an hour US dollars because in the Philippines, $10 a day is minimum wage. So when I'm paying a VA $5 an hour, they become the breadwinner in their family. Now, the agencies pay them about $2 an hour. But you don't know that, and the VA cannot tell you that, okay? Sometimes, too, you might be in a situation or an industry where there's bonuses. So you think, okay, if the VA does this kind of thing, they get a bonus. So you think, oh, well, they should be excited. They just got this amazing bonus. They lose 50 to 60% of that bonus to the agency.
Wow.
In addition, when you leave that agency, because it's quite expensive, you don't get to take that VA with you. They lose a job and you lose the VA. But also, I've seen stuff where the VAs, they take this person's profile and they slap together a resume and they make the resumes look really nice. And they're it's billable hours. That's what they're going for. Okay. With us, what we do is we will hire on board a virtual assistant for you. Because I'm going to work with you on a number of things. The biggest problem with a virtual assistant is you are not set up for one. So most of the people I deal with is you burn through a couple of VAs and you think, oh, it was that agency, or I wasn't paying enough, I wasn't organized, I have to get organized before I can have a VA. There's all these things, right? It's kind of like losing weight before I go to the gym, right? So being set up for a VA does not mean that there's a lot of work, but there's it's not hard, it's simple, but it's strategic, right? So we will start working with you on some really basic streamlined processes and get you set up just on its own so that you are efficient and effective and get time back, right? That's the thing. It's a joke. You work with me. So how much time does this take, Kris? No, you get time back. Okay, yeah. Time back, right? Then We do not want the first thing you do to be having a learning curve of finding and hiring a VA. So we do that for you because we've done it so many times. Then we put them into the leadership program. And there's different touch points, weekly, monthly, like they have to submit stuff every week, leadership, like a video on leadership language, like meaning like we'll ask them a question and they have to learn how to communicate more and more effectively. And I don't mean English, I mean leadership language. But let's say I'm teaching you about our signature super toolkits, which are completely different than SOPs because SOPs are very clunky to make. They're time consuming. They're outdated quickly. Our signature super toolkits are very dynamic breathing documents. They take seconds to make and they just are really like SOPs on steroids. So let's say you and Nika are the smartest person I've ever met, and I'm teaching you about our signature super toolkits. And you get about 70% of that because you're really smart and it's great, it's easy. I show you once, oh wow, this is great. Then you're trying to teach the VA that. So maybe now they're getting 40% because as I used to say when I was learning a course, somebody on my team would ask me something. I said, well, I just learned this and now your question is great. And we have run out of things that I know on this subject, right? So what we do is anything we're teaching you, we're also teaching the virtual assistant. So they're coming at it also from learning. You don't have to train them and they're coming at it with their experience. So you're really getting fresh minds coming at the problem from two different angles, right? So there's a huge amount that goes into that. Also, the VAs love us because they feel like finally they have a career because they are trained to call their people, like when they get a client and we say, no, it's a team leader. You're one team member, they're team leader because a client is temporary and they're constantly told like, yes, this is a temporary situation. This job can end at any second. Where the VAs that we have, they're with our clients for years and years and years. And by the way, if you think I've learned all I can from Kris and I'm ready to move on, we support you. We're going to stay in touch, but you leave with that VA. So there's a huge amount here. It's kind of like the ocean that looks beautiful on the landscape, but there's a lot underneath it.
I don't think that anyone who's been on, and we haven't had anyone on for quite a while to talk about VAs, but has explained it in this much detail.
Well, thank you. We're my new best friend. I've won Anika.
Yeah. So no, I really appreciate this because literally I was just having a conversation before we jumped on with a business owner who has, he probably has 8 to 10 businesses, possibly more that he's founded. I mean, he started 3 new businesses in October alone. He has 5 people who run his email, his calendar. He looks at email maybe once a day and they set up everything for him so that he can have really great conversations.
Yeah.
We were talking about the fact that I'm getting my MBA. I also teach grad school. I have 2 podcasts. I'm producing podcasts, doing PR within my role as an executive director for a foundation and online school, creating some curriculum for that school. I'm a single mom. I'm really dabbling in creating like AI tools for different projects. So I'm doing a number of different things. I have a great team for my podcast.
Excuse me, I have to interrupt. You're doing countless things, not a number. You're doing countless, endless things, endless. Okay.
Yeah. Well, and I think I always have 4 stories going on at the same time, like you.
Yeah.
Like I am very inquisitive. I have a thirst for knowledge. I have goals and I want to keep on learning things. And I do have a great team for my podcast. I have an admin in the Philippines who I met through my editor in the Philippines. I have somebody who's helping with a little bit of social media, but I really need these other aspects because I'm like, well, because you joined my wait list last year for this podcast and I probably have 200 or 300 people that I haven't even been able to vet and send emails to schedule. I can't go through 20 new emails a day with people who want to be guests. It's a great problem to have, but it's just not feasible for me to then have great interactions, great conversations, do the work I need to do. And so, understanding the process, because I have tried it a couple of times.
Yeah.
One was a company in Australia. They had a great story. They were helping people get out of poverty and trafficking. But when I looked at the work, I'm like, this isn't how I speak. This is not what I would say in an email or a LinkedIn if they're managing my LinkedIn inbox. I tried it again with somebody who's like, we have all these these interns you can have. But again, there wasn't really this sense of onboarding and training that you are providing. And so it was just not a great experience. So now I'm like, where do I find the great experience? And have paid, the people that I am working with, they definitely get paid far more than that $10 a day price range. And they're all in the
Yeah. Well, that's the other side of it. Then they get paid, and forgive me for saying this, but I don't want to say too much. I dealt with people, the clients that come to me and they're like, I'm paying this VA 50, $60 an hour because they're like, okay, this didn't work. So the agency didn't work. So then you keep thinking, well, okay, I guess I should pay more. And they're burning through different options. And then they say to me like, oh my gosh, Kris, the one you found me, if I had her and was paying her $50 an hour, I would have been satisfied with that. And I wouldn't be working with you. And yet I'm paying $5 an hour, right? You said so many things that I really want to unpack. First of all, a lot of my clients are exactly like you. And by that, what I mean is they're the go-to person for a lot of people in their life. They're very capable, very confident, very efficient. And so what happens is you look around and you think, listen, let's call a spade a spade. I don't know anyone that's managing as much as me and managing it as effectively as I am. So then you think there just must be too much work because I don't know anybody else that's doing as much as me and I can't keep up. So there's just too much work. And that's not the case. Honestly, I know exactly what I would do with you. So that's what the profile of a lot of my clients are. They're just like, oh yeah, well, I do get a lot done. And I thought that back in the day too, like, listen, I get a lot done. I don't know anybody gets as much done as me, but there's still more to do. Yep. So it was still wasn't helping, right? The reality too is what I would say, and you bring up a really good point about the podcast. I mean, that's why like something like 97% of podcasts don't last past 3 weeks is because of the demands of the workload. When I get off my podcast, it takes me about 7 minutes to complete my portion of what I need to do. And then it goes to my team, which again, I say a team is a philosophy, not a number, because another mistake people make is they just start adding people to the team and suddenly you're managing a team of 8 or even 5, and that's a lot. Because
in there.
we are trained in the parentified world of the corporate world, which is very hierarchical. And it's like, if you were really great at sales and they said, we want you to be the sales manager, the first thing you would do is have less sales. And then you would be managing the team. Well, we don't have that luxury when we're running our businesses. We need more of our time back, not me managing you, which is something people talk about delegating. And to me, delegating is a lateral move because the work still has to come through you, right? Yeah. So a really quick story, Christine, who worked with us, this happens sometimes. I'm not saying it's okay, but it happens. And she missed the first appointment with us. She was a referral from another client. Okay, fine. She misses the appointment. She's a hot mess, no problem. She misses a second appointment and I say, okay, I'm out. Like, who's the fool? She sent me an email and she begged me, please meet with me. You're, like Obi-Wan Kenobi, you're my final hope kind of deal. And I'm like, all right. So I met with her and she said, Kris, I don't know how you're going to help me because she helped businesses that were $5-10 million get ready with their systems to sell their corporation. She goes, that's what I do. She said, there's just too much work to do. You don't understand. She's working like 60, 70 hours a week. I didn't know this at the time. She was taking sleep medication because her cortisol was through the roof. There's all these things. Within the year of working with us, she was down to something like 25, 30 hours a week. Her income quadrupled. We've got clippings from actual live sessions with her on our, on different LinkedIn and our website. It's just clippings, not even a testimonial, just raw footage. And she's telling me how her income went up 4 times a year. Within the year, she went to Costa Rica for a month with no Wi-Fi, and the VA we had for her maintained it. Now, she revisited us. Now, she used to work 60 hours a week. Now she works 9 days a month. And she has, 4 years later, she has the same VA that we found for her. So it really is very incredibly doable. I mean, if we look at your day, Anika, if you even take 10 minutes off every hour, that's 1 hour back at the end of the day, right? So it is a new landscape. And sadly, I'm so glad we're having this conversation because it doesn't benefit the VA. They're stressed out. They ghost you when you're all over the place and you're reactionary and reactive and it's stressful on them and they have no supports and they're trying to keep up with your rotating ideas and, all the chaos that goes on with you. Yep. And they go through burnout, right? And then I've had other people say, I had the best VA and she just didn't show up one day. I don't know, it was perfect. I don't know what happened. I'm like, no, it wasn't perfect for her or him, right? So there's a lot to it. And because it is so new, people are missing all the depth to it.
Yes. And I'm right there with you. I mean, as you were talking, I'm thinking about the fact that I worked till almost midnight last night.
Yeah.
As I did want to have a little bit of a break during the day. It's a holiday weekend, spend a little time with my
Yeah.
kids. But then I'm behind on papers to grade for
Yeah.
my classes that I teach at USC. I, have an email inbox that I can't even manage. And
Yeah.
that I needed to get out a LinkedIn newsletter for the founder of the foundation I work for. I needed to get my LinkedIn newsletter. I needed to get a press release out scheduled for this morning. And so it does snowball. There's always more to do.
Yeah.
And, I saw that on your website, you have a biz identity quiz.
Yeah.
We're like, oh, you're this kind of person. So I'd love to hear more about how did you create that structure? How did you decide to move into, oh, I have this VA thing down. This is going to be part of my core business, coaching people, bringing them great VAs. And then also, oh, VAs really need leadership training along with the person who's hiring them so that everybody's on the same page, because that's not the experience other people are getting. So I know that's a lot of questions in one, but
You know what? I wouldn't say that I had it down. I just learned from my own mistakes, right? I would be like, there's just some very fundamental things. Like when I first had a VA, I would throw things at them half ad hoc and send them an email, do this, that. And then they'd come back to me and ask me some question like, well, what's the password? I'm like, oh, like I thought this would be done by now, but I was giving them incomplete information. So I just painfully saw the lack of structure that I had because I was reacting all the time. And so I had to slow down to speed up. And then I realized just from my own mistakes, things that I thought I was saying, like I might say, if you're my VA, is like say, well, Anika, I don't know if I would do it that way. Then they do it the way I would say that, like the opposite. Like I said, oh, I thought I said to you, I don't know if I would do it that way. Well, I didn't give them a clear directive. I'm like, no, I don't think. So I didn't realize what a weak communicator I was or how ineffective I was in being clear. And there's just a lot of mistakes I learned over the years. And so I started to see that. And then I started to set things up to make sure that, oh, there's leadership language, or even teaching them like with my own team or my clients' teams, how to powerfully ask a question effectively, or that every time you speak, people listen, and not to be apologetic or, hey, excuse me, sorry, I have an idea. Somebody on my team, maybe they're new or whatever, they ever said that, I'd say, oh, hold on, everybody, this is coachable moment. And I'd have somebody else on team say, well, what happened there, right? Or even keywords like, hey, Kris, can I get your permission on, no, I'm not your parent. We don't get permission. Do you want me to approve something for you? Like there's all these subtleties in leadership language that make a difference on how we react. So what the biggest compliment I can say about my team is I feel like, and my clients say this about their teams, is that I feel like I have peers. So I frankly think I am the dumbest person in the room, and I'm quite okay with that. I joke all the time that if this was a public company, they might take over and out I go, right? And I'm fine with that, and you talk about having a VA and it wasn't in your voice. Well, when ChatGPT first came out, we're all kind of in a daze of, well, what does this mean? On my team, Maura was like, hey, can I play around with that? And that's the beauty of the way we're set up, is that they have bandwidth on their calendar as well for new things. Because it's not about keeping up when you have your own business, right? So she started playing around with ChatGPT, engineering it a fair little bit. And then she started reading these blogs, and she would do a little 2-minute interview with me. Kris, I want your opinion on something. We'd take a loom, and she would take these little stories or angles, just like an interview I'm doing with you. And then she'd use that as the foundation of the blog. Well, then she shows me in the beginning of the new year, we ranked above Forbes for a whole article on VAs. And I read it. And not only did it sound like me, people tease me about being really good at analogies. It had not only some really great analogies that I would have said, but other ones that I'm like, I gotta write that down. That's a good one. It sounds so much like me. I would say that. Which one was that? So you can have all that. It doesn't, having somebody write in your own voice does not happen overnight. Maura's been with me a while and things like that. But I want you to understand it as an evolution. And I just really started this process long before anybody else. And I was aware of it and making note of it and building on the successes. And just realizing, if you want to use the term that you mentioned, secret sauce, this is the secret sauce. No person who accomplished anything in the history of the world of success ever did it on their own. Not an Olympic athlete, not a business person, no one. Yeah. And it really is about the team.
So talk to us about what that looks like when somebody comes to you and says, hey, I need help. I'm drowning. help me figure out who I need on my team, what that looks like, and how do I work with you? So do people come in usually as coaching clients?
Yeah, so we get those kind of questions a lot. So the first thing we do is, yes, how it works with us, we do something very different as well. I'm not sure if you're familiar with Voxer, but we work primarily through Voxer. And what that is, it's like a walkie-talkie on your phone.
Yeah.
And why that matters, how it happened for us is I actually used to do Zoom calls every week. And I had a client who was going away to Australia to deal with a family matter. So we crammed her appointments in for the month before she left. And I said to her in passing, hey, while you're away, I know you're working on this big project. If you have any questions, send me a quick Loom video. I'll answer them. Well, God love her. She sent me a video every day. So I was responding and I would see how the little things that we would have talked about in a recap of the week, all in one sitting, there's little missteps. I'm like, oh, she wouldn't have caught that. And so I was realizing we were getting a lot more traction. And it was more intimate conversations and more meaningful instead of recapping the week or something really big you wanted to talk to me about Tuesday, but then something blew up on Thursday and our appointment is on Friday. It was all that. So Voxer, you get access to me. You can leave messages 24/7. I hop in there. I'm very strategic. The work is incredibly customized towards your business. We do that on Voxer. We also have what we call the Academy. So I might ask you to watch a couple of videos in the Academy so that like, hey, Anika, I want you to watch these 2 videos on super toolkits. They're about 5-10 minutes each. That way you and I can start at the same position in the conversation and I could show you what you need to know for sort of the concept. So we do different things like that. All the while we're working with a VA that we found, hired and on board for you. They're in our leadership program. They've got weekly action items that they have to submit, and they're all about growth and development and leadership. They've got a live monthly training. They have their own Voxer channel where they check in with me at least once a week and we go back and forth and stuff. So it's really like having somebody in your pocket 24/7 and really customizing everything about your business, your personality, your lifestyle, so that you can get so much more done in less time and make more money. And when people say this, I still struggle with that language, get more done in less time. It sounds like we're talking about going faster. Right. You'll actually find that you move at a much more purposeful and more relaxed pace, and you get to breathe it all in and enjoy it.
Yeah. That sounds like a huge game changer.
Well, my clients say so. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I'd love to hear a little bit more about how you grew your business and your brand, and then the offshoot of the book, the podcast, thought leadership. You've been on major stages.
Yeah. Well, it's just through meaningful conversations like this. I wrote the book because I realized the people that I needed to talk to were isolated because they looked so good on paper. No one knew the behind the scenes. Like, my gosh, I will tell you with true full disclosure, the first 5 minutes we were talking, I was like, oh my gosh, her hair looks so like you're just so put together. And I was like, oh, I don't have it put together today. You know, some of those days you're like, oh, I look better in my mind. And I passed a mirror.
You look fantastic.
You look polished. Your glasses are all, you know, everything comes together. You look so professional. You got a bright smile. You do not look tired. When I was tired, I looked like a little drugged, a chubby heroin addict. I wasn't lucky enough to be thin. That's another thing. Your self-care goes out the window. You stop eating. You know, when I was working those crazy hours, listen to me. You think when you're shoving food down your throat that your left hand while you're emailing on a phone with your right hand, you're not shoving down a salad, you know? So that's not how it went for me. Yep. So someone like yourself at a glance, you got it look like you got it completely 1000% pulled together. So unless you're honest about that or open in a conversation like this, you're seldom posting about it on LinkedIn. So a lot of the people I deal with are kind of like invisible as far as they, you know, and they're not complaining about where they are because they think that's just the only option they have. Like, listen, I don't know anyone who gets this done as much as me in a day. So this is just the hand I've been dealt. There's too much to do, right? Or people were say, but I love what I do and I'm so hungry to learn and I want to take all these courses. So it's the cost, it's the price of admission. It's not, right? So I had to write this book so that, you know, people would read it and, okay, all right, okay, I get it. So I thought it was just me. So that was number one, right? And then I'm a little obsessed about over delivering. So my clients will all tell me that I'm constantly adding to the program, like the leadership program, something, you know, as one client said to me, he said, Kris, I think since I started working with you in the last 6 months, it's doubled what you offer. Cause I'm like, if somebody asks, we could do that, we could do this. And he said, I'm paying the same thing. How does that work? And I'm like, well, first of all, Because I have the bandwidth on my calendar, it's not eating up my time. I can do these things and still be able to, like, I can just always do more because of the setup I have. And then when I pass it on to you, I am obsessed about you should have all the time you want in the world, Anika, to enjoy your family, and that you should be working school hours at this point in your journey, right? And you shouldn't have to sacrifice one part of your life for another because you have a dream. So that drives me, and it just allows me to constantly over deliver.
I'm sold. I'm like, yes, sign me up. What has been one of that you've shared a lot of great realizations that you've had over this journey, but I'd love to hear, like, is there one big moment when you said, this is exactly what I'm supposed to be doing. This is worth it. And my life is better because I went down this path?
Well, I think there's a lot of little moments. I mean, not to go back to my husband, who was, just an amazing human being. I can stand here without regret and know that he had my full attention. And that would be a very difficult life to live if I was sitting here living in regret. And, when people would try to bestow sympathy upon me after they heard what happened, I'd say, look, everyone has something. This is my something right now. So my story may be special to me, but it's not unique. People go through things all the time that interfere with their work. And that's the thing. Your work has to be able to support your life, not consume it. And it can't be frail that everything around it has to be secondary. So there's that. And I really didn't realize what I was getting into when I was providing all these services to the VAs. I thought essentially what I was doing is I was teaching them how that they were looking for people to be part of a team, not a subordinate, right? So it's teaching them how to do that, how to be heard, how to be seen. And a part of that comes through leadership and using certain words and a certain level of confidence and all these things, right? And I thought I was doing that for you, my client. But the feedback I'm getting from the VAs is like, this is an industry disruptor is what they're telling me. And now they're telling me like stories that I didn't even know because I've never treated them the way the agencies treated them. So I didn't know the vast difference between the two. But somebody said to me recently, they can see it in the eyes of the people that are new to the leadership program. They're looking suspicious, like, is this really what she says it is? And they're all like, oh, this is hilarious. Because yeah, I thought that too. Like, this can't be the way, because another thing I don't believe in is I don't believe in overnights. There is no way in the world somebody is effective at 3:00 in the morning. I also believe, like my team, they work full-time hours. So, but what that means is they're around my mornings because we have scrum meetings, we do this, that, and whatever. And so they're around from 8 a.m. to noon my time, which is 8 p.m. to midnight their time. Mm-hmm. Now, I argue if you think you need somebody all day long, you're not set up properly, right? You should not have to have somebody doing overnight so that they're there 4:00 in the afternoon if you think of something that you need right now. You're not set up for it, right? So even that changes it, right? All these principles I have in play that are not really out of generosity, they're out of effectiveness. But so then it feels like the VAs themselves feel like they finally, like, I am valued here and I have a career. And as someone said to me, Kris, I hope this job lasts a lifetime. And others have all said, many of the VAs say, oh my gosh, I feel like I'm like, this is half my company because I have such input here, right? So that's exciting that they get so much out of it. But essentially, it's just a good business plan. That's all.
Wow. That's really amazing. This is really funny because I've never had a conversation with a VA agency or somebody who talks about VAs that has inspired me as much as this one.
Oh my gosh, dear diary. Hold on. Let me make a note.
You have shared the stage with names that we all know, right? People from Secret Millionaire, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, the NFL, Shark Tank, Chicken Soup for the Soul. Was there one experience that you had that stands out that made you go, wow, this is, again, sharing your message to the world?
Well, with Kevin Harrington, original shark from Shark Tank, if you know his story, he really is the guy behind, as seen on TV, like all those ridiculous things that people spent billions of dollars on that were just insane, like, I don't know, sort of a snuggle blanket or whatever, And what I found really often when we hear great success stories, it's hard to relate to them because my pet peeve is if somebody comes on my podcast, which my podcast is not about this. It's really about anything related to business. It could be sales, social media, whatever. And then when people give you examples of Apple and stuff, and it's like, I can't relate to that, like whatever. Right. And so, but Kevin Harrington had unbelievable success and was a pioneer as far as those infomercials were considered. And yet he spent most of his time on my show talking about, look, you need a team. Like there's just no way. Right. And I was like, okay, yeah, that is the governing principle. And I think anything done well on the planet comes down to a team. I remember, forgive me, I forget her name, but she was an Olympic athlete, a swimmer of some sort and whatever. She had a certain amount of accolades and she had won a number of gold medals. And then she thought, do I need a team this big? We've got it all in play. We've got this, we've got that. And she started to cut back on her team. And the moral of the story in this documentary was then something came new to the Olympic criteria, that there was a new thing banned. Long story short, she took some cough medicine of some sort and there was some sub thing in it that now she got in trouble for having in her system, even though they believed her. It is what it is. And she said, it's because I cut down on my team. I cut down on the processes. I thought we were neutral. And so I firmly believe anything done well comes down to having a team. And the other thing, I cannot stress this enough, team is not about volume. You can't just start throwing more people at your problem. Okay, Kris, it's growing. Just because the company's growing, as your business grows, doesn't mean you need 2 and 3 and 4 more people. So I believe a team is a philosophy, not a number. You can have a team of 1. I also believe that you can have a very large, successful business with an incredibly small team, not meaning that they're grinding it out, working crazy hours, just that they're efficient. Kind of like a car. The car doesn't become more powerful because it becomes bigger.
Right. Yeah. What do you think about people who are now saying, oh, we can use agentic AI to replace a lot of these tasks that we don't want to do?
You need someone to monitor, supervise, implement, and keep track of that AI. So that's kind of like back in the day when we said, oh, look, we've got 30 people working in the factory. Great. We can replace those people and we can put a machine in. Fine. Turn the machine on. But you can't come back 2 weeks later and go, oh my gosh, we're supposed to have 10,000 widgets made. And the machine was unplugged for 2 days or it broke a spring or whatever, right? So AI is rapidly changing. It's a tool. Can it make your team more efficient? Can it say that instead of taking 2 hours to do something, it might take 45 minutes? Absolutely. But just researching your AI and which tool to get, which package to buy would take at least a whole afternoon for you, Anika. So you'd have your VA come and say, okay, Anika, this is what you asked for. I think these are the 3 best. This is what I would recommend. Here's what it looks like. And here's how long the training will be. I'm going to create a super toolkit. You'll know how to use this by Friday. So is it a fantastic tool? Yes. Does it replace humans? Absolutely not.
Yeah. Agreed. But I wanted to ask that question because now there are all these companies springing up saying, oh, you can hire 5 of our agents and they'll do this and this and this and this for us.
Yeah.
But you still have to troubleshoot. And there's nothing that replaces the human monitoring.
You have to create before you even troubleshoot, right?
Right.
The team has to have an idea to say, let's do this and think of that. And I'm looking at this. And you know what will let us do that quicker is this new AI tool. But here's the idea and here's the execution. The AI is a tool. It's not a creative partner. It's not going to say, you know what you didn't try last month? You know what we should really do? That's not going to do that. As my accountant says, garbage in, garbage out. It will only answer the questions you gave it.
Yeah, exactly. We've covered a lot, and I want people to go to your website, winthehour.com, and learn more about working with you, get your blogs, your podcast, your book, all the different links. So what I want to end with is there one thing people need to consider when they're looking at, it's time for me to hire a VA?
Well, I would say it's like that old saying, the best time would have been 20 years ago. The second best time is today. I know I thought for the longest time that I had to reach a certain level of accomplishment or accolades or income or whatever. But in order to get there, you need to have support. Whatever you're doing, whatever level you are at your business, you will get to the next level so much faster if you have some sort of team. Again, that's a person, not a philosophy, not a number, because right now you're the most damaging overhead in your business. If you could sell your package, whatever it is, let's say it's something simple for $100. Every time you don't sell one of those packages, you're charging your company $100 an hour. So, you stop being the most damaging overhead in your business and let's get to it.
Fantastic. That is an amazing quote for this podcast and for life. But I also want to ask, is there a group of words, poem, verse, motto, words that you live by that continue to inspire you to do this work every day and inspire you to live your life?
I believe that your business should support your life, not consume it. And I will always say that. I also think that business should be fun. Or why did we do this? You could be at that job you didn't like with a lot less hassle and evenings and weekends and no overhead. So your business should support your life, not consume it. And you should be having fun while you're doing that.
Fantastic. Kris Ward, everybody. This has been such a fun conversation. I'm looking forward to learning more and diving into all of your materials. Thank you so much for really sharing the truth about what we need to look for, how it can be a much more simple process in some ways than we think, right? When you're thinking about hiring people, it's not something that's cost prohibitive, and you can get really great team, whether that's a team of one or a team of many, to help. And especially with the small business ecosystem, we're all looking at how do we use the right tools, the right people at the right time, but also make it cost effective for our businesses.
Yeah. And thank you for a thoughtful interview and trusting me with your audience. That's a big thing. I appreciate that. But also, it is really fun to have a conversation with someone that is so purposeful and thoughtful about their questions. So I appreciate you.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And thank you to everybody who's watching or listening to this episode. Be sure to check out Kris's podcast. Leave us both a rating and review, a follow if you like what you're hearing. And with that, I'll be back again with another amazing guest very soon. Thanks for listening or watching to this episode of Your Brand Amplified. Don't forget to leave us a rating or review on your favorite podcast listening platform. And if you want to learn more, check us out at yourbrandamplified.com.